Welcome back, everyone, to the Lab 4 video. This is going to be sheet 1. There is going to be a sheet 2 video, but a little bit different this week. We're going to be modifying our master title block so that we can actually have both sheets in one PDF file. So we're not going to be creating two different PDFs for sheet 1 and sheet 2. This week, we're going to be creating one PDF, which is going to say that the title of that is going to be Lab 4 all dash your initials, and both sheets, sheet 1 and sheet 2, which in your drawing, I think there's a drawing with all the lines, which is sheet 2 in your drawing or in your assignment drawing. Those are just construction lines, which I will show you as we go through sheet 1. But it's really just sheet 1, and which would be the third page in your assignment is going to be sheet 2. So there's only 2 drawings this week. And like I said, the only difference is we are going to be modifying your title block so that we can have both of those plotted as one single PDF. It's called batch plot in AutoCAD. So let's go ahead and get started. We'll modify the title block first, and then we'll jump into Lab 1 Sheet 1. And so this is what I was just talking about. So there are 3 pages in the PDF file. That's your quote assignment PDF file. There's this page, there is this, which is technically, I guess, I think it says sheet 2. Yeah, it says sheet 2 in here. However, this is just looking at what the construction lines look like for your sheet 1. So in this case, we're not actually doing anything with this. I will show you these construction lines as we go through to create our right view for sheet 1. But that's all this is. You're not going to actually submit this page. And then there is sheet 2. That will be the next video. But like I said, you're going to start submitting these things in batch plot, which is what AutoCAD calls it, batch plotted PDFs. So you'll have sheet 1 and sheet 2 in the same PDF to submit. And with that, let's go ahead and get started here. So the first thing I would like you to do is double click on your title block. So don't copy it over yet. So just double click on your master title block. And from here, just click somewhere on your block, right click to edit the block. So go into block editor and select Lab X, Sheet X, just select that. And then we're going to do something called copy with base. So this allows us to copy and it doesn't just copy and drag it in the same area. You can copy and paste it into a separate drawing. You could copy and paste it from model space to paper space, that kind of thing. So what we're going to do is just click on it once to select it, and then type, you have to hold all these down. It's like a hotkey combination. Control-Shift-C. And now it's asking you, if you see here where my cursor is, it's saying specify base point. So I'm just going to zoom in and just select the top left corner of this rectangle here. So I'm just going to click once. And then once you click, that little box will go away, and then you still have Lab X, Sheet X highlighted. So now what we want to do is just click delete and close the block editor. And once we get back over to paper space, you're going to click Control V and select the same exact base point, just like that. And now the Lab X, Sheet X exists in paper space separate from the block. And you still have your block that consists of everything else on your title block. So with that, we're going to edit that when we get into sheet 1, but we're still making title block edits right now. So don't do anything yet. Leave that Lab X, Sheet X for now. If you want to recenter, you can double click the middle mouse wheel and that will recenter you. And then go ahead and click Control S to save your drawing before you make any more changes. At this point, go ahead and load those line types that we've used the last 2 weeks now. So this third drop-down box in the properties menu, go ahead and load that, or click that, select other, load, and scroll down to center 2. Okay. Load again. Hidden 2 is what we're looking for now. Click OK. And we're not going to use it for our layers, but another very useful one to have in your own drawings would be dashed 2. And click OK. So we're going to click OK there. That locks it in. We can check to make sure our layers are all loaded properly, and they are. Click Control S to save. And from here, we're going to type options enter. And that will bring up our options menu. Now, in the open and save tab, which popped up automatically for me, if it didn't for you, just navigate to the open and save tab. You can just click over to it. Under autosave, let's make our autosave 5 minutes and then uncheck create a backup copy with each save. Just uncheck that. What that does is this little backup file that you've probably been annoyed that it keeps creating every time you save. This backup file will no longer be created every single time you save. So that's what we just did there. And from here, we're going to click apply and then OK. Once again, Control S. And the last thing we're going to do, I know I talked about it briefly. I think it was last week. I'm going to click layer properties. And we are going to add a few layers because for this week and next week, which are the last 2 weeks of AutoCAD, we're going to be utilizing a tool within AutoCAD called layers, which is very important in terms of organizing your drawing so that you can easily manipulate specific areas of the drawing later. So there are these 4 icons that are right next to each other above name and status. And you're going to click this top left one here, new layer. It's got like a little gold star. Just go ahead and click that. And you're going to make a layer called lines. And click enter. Then you're going to click that again. I'm going to make one called holes. Click enter. And we're just going to keep doing that. Dimensions. And then another one called hidden. And another one called center. That's center. And then a last one called construction. There we go. And generally speaking, there is a setting where you can change this, but usually, oh, and you know what, it's right here. So these are almost always defaulted to alphabetical order. So it should just show up just like this. So we have, let me just double check. Lines, holes, dimensions we have, hidden lines we have, center lines we have, and construction we have. Excellent. I think I made an extra one, this layer one, so I can go ahead and delete that. To delete a layer, you just highlight it and then click the little icon with the red X, just like that. Now from here, we are going to go into the color column right here, and our lines, go ahead and click on this little palette. Lines are going to be red. Holes are going to be magenta. Hidden lines are going to be cyan, so this bluish color. Dimensions will be green. Construction lines will be yellow. And our center lines will be blue. Please use these colors because I'm going to grade you based on if you were able to, get these layers set up correctly. So please go ahead and use the exact colors that I'm using and the exact line types that I'm using for these layers, or else you're going to lose points. If you go ahead and create your own title block, by all means, use other colors, whatever makes you happy. So the only 2 line types here that we're going to change in the line type column are going to be the center lines and the hidden lines. So under center line, kind of come over from center line and under line type, go ahead and click where that says continuous, and it's going to be center 2. Click OK. And then come over across from the hidden lines, click on continuous under line type, and this is going to be hidden 2. Click OK. You can see that now changed the line type. Don't worry about this VP line type. We don't have to worry about that. At least in our class. Line type is all we're concerned about, but it will automatically update the VP line type. Click escape, or I'm sorry, click the X. And now to double check that we have all of our layers set up properly, the drop down under layers should now contain all of the different layers that you just created. And before we save and close, just make lines the default layer, click Control S, and go ahead and click the X to close your title block. From here, click the dot back file, just click it once and click the delete button on your keyboard. You don't need that. And then CAD 154 title block, go ahead and select and copy that to your Lab 4 submissions folder. And from here, the only difference from previous weeks is this is going to be Lab 4 all, just like that. Do Lab 4 space parentheses all in caps and then end parentheses space and space dash space and then your initials. That will be the naming convention for Lab 4. And then go ahead and open that file. First things first, when we get in here is now, just because we changed it in our master title block, you can now select without having to click on the block, right click, edit the block. Now we can go ahead and edit our Lab X Sheet X right here in Paperspace. So this is going to be Lab 4 Sheet 1. Double click the middle mouse wheel to recenter your page and Control S to save. And then right click Sheet 1, move or copy, click on that. And that will bring up this menu. Go ahead and click Create a Copy, select Move to End, and click OK. Now we just right click on the Sheet 1 parentheses 2, rename that Sheet 2, and left click on that once. That will bring us over to our other sheet. And that we are going to call Lab 4 Sheet 2. So now if we click between the two, the Sheet 1 and the Sheet 2, you can see that in the title block, they are labeled different things. So the Sheet 1 is labeled Lab 4 Sheet 1, Sheet 2 is labeled Lab 4 Sheet 2. And now make sure you're on Lab or Sheet 1, I'm sorry, and then click on Model Space. So the first thing we're going to do in here is we are not going to use the grid anymore. So we can just go ahead and turn off the grid. So this just little button right here that's always been selected, we're just going to turn that off. Generally speaking, you wouldn't even have a page border like this. We're just using it so that we always, that we make sure that we draw in the correct kind of approximate location so that we don't have to manipulate our viewport in Paperspace. However, I will say that this time we will be manipulating a little bit. I'm going to show you how to do that. But for now, go ahead and leave this. This gives us a good indicator of where to start. So first things first, make sure that you are on your lines layer. And you remember you can just click, and then if you want to select a different layer, just go ahead and click, and that will change your global layer so that when you draw in it, it will be the line type and the color that you have selected for that layer. So we're on the lines layer. We're going to grab our rectangle tool. So up here in the draw toolbar, or you can type REC, enter. And somewhere kind of in this area here, go ahead and click D, enter for dimensions. And we're going to make a 3 enter by 2 enter rectangle. And then go ahead and click in the lower right quadrant. Now from here, I'm going to highlight that rectangle, X enter to explode it, and then highlight that top line, and I'm going to O enter to offset, and it's going to ask for an offset distance, 0.5 enter, and I'm going to offset that down by 0.5, click left click once, and then we're going to offset this left vertical line. We're going to O enter, offset that by 1 inch, enter. Make sure that's towards the inside, click escape. And now we could do that over here. We can offset that by 1 inch. But what I'm going to have you do is use another tool that we've never used before. And it's really not specifically a tool. It's more of a feature that allows you to be more specific of where you place the beginning of a tool, like a line or a rectangle, where you place that first base point. It's called displacement. So what we could do is grab our line tool, just like this, or click L, enter. And now hover over this lower right point, and they'll say endpoint and give you a little snap icon, a little square. So I just hovered, I didn't click. So now if we see anywhere we go 90 degrees, so in 90-degree intervals, it's going to give you little snappers to show you that you're lined up vertically or horizontally with that point. So I'm going to show you out here to the right, even though we are going to come in this direction, but for the sake of not having a line in our way, I'm going to show you out to this direction. So I still haven't clicked. Just to show you again, I'm out of the line tool. I'm going to type L enter to go into the line tool. And it's going to ask me to specify the first point. But instead of clicking, I'm going to hover over this specific point, bottom right of this rectangle. I'm just going to drag out to the right. So I'm not clicking. I'm just kind of hovering out this direction. And with it snapped on that green line, I'm going to type 1 enter. And now it has placed our base point 1 inch away at 0 degrees from this endpoint. So let's go ahead and do that towards the left. So I'm going to hover, drag out this way, like bring my mouse out this way, 1 enter. And now we see we have our line starting at 1 inch from this point to the left. And instead of drawing a line straight up, we could just draw a line to our 1/2 inch offset from the top, just like that. And that, if we bring in our drawing here, we can see is what we just created, is this line right here. Now from here, go ahead and highlight this vertical line. Click once at the top pick point. Just click once. That'll allow you to manipulate that point and snap it to the left or the left end point of this horizontal line right here. Last thing to do in this view is to add the center line and hidden lines. Up in your layer properties, go ahead and select center and L enter for line tool. Start it at your midpoint on the lower line, drag it straight up till it snaps to the top, click once, and then click escape to get out of the line tool. Next thing, just highlight that line that we just made. O enter for offset, 0.25 enter, and then you can offset that both directions. So let's offset it to the left, and then if you click escape, you'll have to type O enter again, and then 0.25 enter. If you don't click escape, let me just redo that. If you don't click escape, you are actually still in the tool. So if I click it to the left, and then it'll give me the option to select another line, and I can offset that to the right. And from here, let's just go ahead and highlight both of these lines. And for the record, if you do not have to hold Control in order to highlight multiple things, you can go ahead and just keep highlighting without holding Control. If you hold Shift, that allows you to deselect things. So with only those 2 vertical lines selected, go up to your layer and change it to hidden, just like that. And I will go ahead and explain this once we create our front view in a little bit more detail. So from here, type REC enter, or you can grab your rectangle tool from your draw toolbar up here. Hover over this bottom left point, drag it straight down, and type 1 enter. So we just use the displacement tool again to start our rectangle 1 inch below that bottom left corner there. As you can see, I also am still in global layer of center. And what we can do is we can actually change this afterwards. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to place this, and then I'll go ahead and change the layer. So from here, we're going to type D enter, 3 enter. So for 3 inches long by 2 inches tall. And that's going to give us our rectangle. Place in the lower right quadrant, click once. And there's 2 ways to change this to the correct layer. The first is to highlight it and then change your layer to lines. The other way is to just select any of these red lines. You can this only works if you select only one. If you select more than one, it will not work. So select on one line, type MA enter for match attributes, and then go ahead and click or do a crossing window, and that will change it to the correct layer. click escape. Now from here, we are going to create another rectangle, REC enter, and I'm just going to create it somewhere out here in space. So, you know what? I'm still in my center layer globally. So what I can do is come up here and change my layer to lines. And something to note about how these layers work. So right now, any line I create is going to be on the lines layer, or any rectangle or any circle. It's going to be on the lines layer. I can go ahead and change. So if I want this rectangle right here to be on the center lines layer, for example, I can highlight it and then I can change it to the center lines layer. However, when I click escape to get out of that function, anything I draw is still going to be on the lines layer. If I want to draw things, change the global layer, I have to come up here with nothing selected and change it to center or whatever other line you want to make. And now everything I draw is going to be on the center layer. So you can change just one item, just like that, by highlighting and selecting a new layer. And then if I want to make everything that I'm going to draw from here on out a different layer, then with nothing selected, I go ahead and select the layer that I want to use. Just a useful piece of information there. Now from here, with my lines layer selected globally, I'm going to type REC enter to grab my rectangle tool, click, and just anywhere, it doesn't really matter. D enter, and we are going to make a rectangle that is 1 inch wide by 1.5 inches tall. Again, doesn't matter where you click it here because we're going to move it. So go ahead and highlight that rectangle. M enter to move, or you can also grab that up here in the modify toolbar. Select the midpoint of the bottom of that rectangle and snap it to the midpoint of the bottom of this larger rectangle here with our front view. Now, this isn't totally required for our class, but it's good drafting standards to not have overlapping lines. Now, I know we've done this a number of times. We've had overlapping lines a number of times throughout the class. But in this case, I'm going to go ahead and if you highlight the rectangle, you can just grab a pick point and move it up. Then I'm going to type TR, enter, and trim just that bottom line. And then I'm going to type EX, enter to extend. And I'm going to extend both of those lines down to the bottom. So now we have our rectangle doesn't have a bottom. And then we have the bigger rectangle that has all four sides. And from here, I'm going to type L, enter for my line tool, start up in the top left, and drag it down to the top left of the smaller rectangle. L, enter from the top right, and I'm going to do the same thing on this side. Alternatively, you can mirror. Highlight this, MI, enter. We're mirroring horizontally, so we can drag a vertical mirror plane, click, and do not erase the source objects, just like that. Last but not least, two steps to go on this front view. I'm going to grab my line tool, L, enter, hover over the bottom left corner, just drag straight up. It works if you're in here too, but just to make sure, for our sake, if you drag it above where that line is, you can see that you're snapped vertically, and type 1, enter. So we've placed that first base point for this line 1 inch above the bottom left of this view here. Drag straight over till it snaps with this midpoint here. Alternatively, technically we are at the midpoint, so you could have just drawn a line starting at the midpoint. We use displace just to reinforce that tool, the displacement tool. From here, I'm going to type TR, enter, and go ahead and trim the 3 lines that we don't need there. And last but not least, let's grab our circle tool. So you can grab your circle diameter tool up here in the toolbar. Alternatively, as usual, you can type C, enter. In this case, hover over the bottom midpoint, drag it straight up, and type 0.5 to create the base point of that circle at 0.5 displaced from the bottom midpoint. And our diameter here, so it's asking me for a radius. I'm going to type D, enter for diameter, and we're going to type 0.5, enter to make this a 0.5 inch diameter circle. And to verify that we have these hidden lines draw correctly, I'm going to type XL, enter, B, enter for our vertical line, our vertical extension line. And we can just snap to both of these quadrants, and we can see that, in fact, we do have these hidden lines drawn correctly. What those hidden lines are showing is, if we see from this front view, this hole goes all the way through this part. If it didn't go all the way through, hypothetically, if we just had something like this, you know, we could show this stopping. I didn't draw that all the way, but you get the picture here. So if this line didn't go all the, or that hole wasn't all the way through, it would be more something like this. And we would change our line type scale to show that maybe this would be like 0.5, just like that. But in our case here, we are cutting all the way through, and that is why our hidden lines and our center lines extend all the way through our top view. Now from here, we have enough information based on the dimensions in our drawing to create the right view without using the projection lines. However, it's good practice, and you're going to need to use the projection lines in the next view, or in the next sheet. So let's go ahead and grab our construction layer. And from here, I'm going to make a 45-degree construction line. So I can type XL, enter for construction line, and then I can type A, enter for angle, and 45, enter for the 45-degree construction line. And I mean, you can really start this wherever. I'm just going to pick kind of an arbitrary point somewhere right in here, because I know that will make it so that I have nearest turned on. That's why that's annoying, because it doesn't let you do what I'm trying to do here, which is snap horizontally from this point. So I'm going to go down here. I'm going to turn off nearest, and then snap right to that point. And we can see now our right view here is going to be like the left side of that right view is going to start right here. So that's a good place for it. RAY, enter for the ray tool, and go ahead and create rays at all important intersecting lines. Again, this is optional. I like to trim this kind of stuff off. I do that when I'm working professionally as well. Again, you do not need to do this, but I like to do it. It just helps my brain look more intelligently at all of the lines and the grid that's created, so that I can create my view and just keep better organized. As you can imagine, when you have drawings or assemblies that are much more complicated than this, there can be quite a lot of lines to be dealing with. And this just kind of helps keep everything organized. There we go. And at this point, we have all, except for one, we don't have our center line yet. There we go. At this point, we have all the lines we're going to need to create our right side view. And to make this a little easier, we already know that these two lines are going to be hidden lines. So let's just highlight those and make those hidden, add those to the hidden layer. This is going to be a center line. So go ahead and make that, put that on the center layer. So highlight it and then use the drop down to put it on the center layer. Select this vertical line. This is going to be our cutting tool here. TR, enter once, and go ahead and trim those lines off there. And now we have our first three lines in this view placed. From here, it's as easy as grabbing our drop down, grab our lines layer, using our line tool. I'm just going to start anywhere along this perimeter here, and go ahead. If you make a mistake, that's okay. You can edit it later. I'm going to go ahead and place all the lines that I need, just like that. And then I made a mistake here, so I'm just going to highlight this. Move that point. You can also redraw the line. That's okay. Don't forget to select the other line, and you have to move that down with it. It's not going to move together because it's not a joined polyline. If, for example, this was a joined polyline already, and I'll show you that. So I'm just going to highlight both of those and type join, enter. So now with this being a polyline, I can select that point with both the lines, or with that polyline selected, and both of those lines, so this vertical line and this horizontal line, will move together at that endpoint. In this case, though, it was not, so I had to move each of them individually. With that, now what we can do, so if we look at this page right here, so we didn't draw all of these lines, but if you look carefully, so 1, 2, 3, these, so this line here, I'm gonna trace it on here actually. So where we are here, so this is actually our rectangle, just like that. And actually, let me do properties so we can see this a little bit better. There we go. So there is our rectangle. So now our projection lines just to give you an idea of what it is we're really looking at here. So that gives you an idea of what these lines are really showing you. So the lines that we have on our paper are these horizontal lines, these vertical lines, and these projection lines here horizontally. And with that, what's another cool thing about layers is that make sure your construction layer is not selected. If it is, this won't work. Do the drop down, and then you can either freeze that layer or turn it completely off. The difference between that is if you freeze a layer, it still is loaded in your computer's RAM. So it's still in the computer's memory. It knows it's there, it's thinking about it, and it's using graphics processing power. If you turn it completely off, it actually is removing it from the computer memory. So it's still in the file, it's still in the file information, but your computer is not actively remembering that it's there. So for our purposes, we can just freeze the layer. This is a very small drawing. If you end up becoming a civil engineer and you're using huge, gigantic site plans, or like you have a whole entire, or maybe you're doing MEP work and you are working with full site plans for buildings like a hospital or something like that, these layers can be tens of thousands of lines, hundreds of thousands of lines. And if you're looking at site plans, I mean, you could be talking about multiple square miles inside model space. So, we're using an 8.5 by 11 sheet of paper, but this is an infinite space here. So turning off a layer in that case makes a lot more sense because you're saving computer memory. For our cases, we could just go ahead and freeze it. And that way, if you ever want to reference, oh, hey, let me look at my construction lines, there they are. This is also good. I also would freeze stuff for like when I used to do like sheet metal design, like sheet metal patterns. So I would dimension my file for the CNC machine where all of the holes and stuff like that were. But then if you keep that layer on or not frozen, then the CNC router will actually try to cut those dimensions into the sheet metal. So I would turn those off in that case just to be safe. But freezing works too, and the machine will not then cut those lines and cut the dimensions in. So that was for reference. The dimensions were there. The CNC operator, whoever it was that was programming that machine, could verify for a fact that flat pattern did have accurate dimensions on it. Then they could go ahead and turn that layer off and cut the part. So that's just a little explanation of why, one of the reasons why layers are so powerful. So I'm just going to go ahead and freeze that layer for now. And from here, let's go to sheet 1. Sometimes if you, I don't know if you saw that or not, but these looked continuous for a second. I checked my line type scale. It was at 1. So I knew that it was okay. Sometimes, depending on what's going on with the computer, it may try to save graphics processing power by the way it shows things. So your circle here, for example, which actually is a hole, so it should be on your holes layer, just like that. So move that over to your holes layer. Holes, sometimes circles, sometimes in like very large drawings, depending on your graphics card that you have in your computer, they will look kind of like octagonal. Just know it actually is. Usually when you select it, it will re-render it as a complete circle or an arc. But sometimes if you see that, if it looks kind of like hexagonal or something like that, it actually is a circle. It's just saving graphics memory. So from here, let's go over to sheet 1. Just make sure this actually looks, I got kind of lucky. This looks really good in terms of where I have this on the page. So I'm going to go back over to model space, grab my dimensions layer, and throw some dimensions on here. So I'm going to go ahead and speed it up here. But dimensions, same as usual, just make sure they're on the green dimensions layer. And we'll pick back up here in just a sec. From here, we're good to go with our dimensions. Before we're done with this one, though, let's just take a look at sheet 1. Make sure, you know what, I'm actually going to move this over a little bit, and I want to show you how to manipulate objects in the viewport without having to move them in model space. Now, with grid turned off in model space, it really doesn't matter, you know, where something is anymore, because without this here, you just that drawing is just somewhere out in space. It really doesn't even matter at all. So with that on, though, we kind of have an idea of like where our viewport is. But let's just come into sheet 1, double click inside the viewport, and down here unlock. So it says selected viewports are locked. Just click this little lock button, and now if we hold down the middle mouse wheel, it allows us to drag this all over the place. So let's just kind of drag this to center it a little bit better on our sheet here. Looks like right there will be pretty good. If you accidentally zoom in or out, go ahead and click down here, this little scale, click 1 to 1, and then use the middle mouse wheel to pan and kind of place where you want it. Remember, look and see, if I hold down the little mouse wheel, you'll see my crosshairs turn into a little hand, which means that it's holding on to the page. So go ahead and place that wherever you want. Make sure that it's still 1 to 1. If it's not, click the drop down, select 1 to 1, and then click on the lock again to lock your viewport. Make sure that when you lock it, though, you're in 1 to 1, or else you're not going to be able to change that option once it's locked. And also, if you try to pan, it will be locked as well. The only thing you may have noticed at this point, this line is in our way now, which is this line is actually our rectangle here. So let's just go ahead and delete that rectangle at this point. Double click the middle mouse wheel to recenter your drawing. And then in sheet 1, you should be locked at this point. Click outside of the viewport, because right now we're still in the viewport. Click out of the viewport. And there we go. There we have it for Lab 4 sheet 1. Don't plot it yet. We're going to plot after we complete sheet 2. Keep this lab open and pop over to our Lab 4 sheet 2 lecture video. And we're going to go through creating this drawing here. See you all in the next video.